Okay, we're back. Alien god time. Alright, I think you have to bring her. Yes, you do. God damn it. Honestly, we might just start with Tristan then, because he has buff removal to remove the Pearson vulnerability. We also have her. So she AoE attacks, she does NP seal and heal down, and I don't really remember how they make her NP work here. I know it's AoE, but I don't remember exactly how that goes. Okay, what do we want to do? I don't think this account really has a Jason in a particularly good spot, so... Oh my god, chat, I'm gonna have to stop myself from just bringing what I know is the absolute most effective, because I have Enkidu, and I have Ku, and I have Tristan. And these are just really good options here. I mean, it's because they're good options almost everywhere, and that's why I leveled them and I like them, but... Chat, I really am biased, though. I'm looking at this, like, look at how many dudes there are here, right? Like, I really am biased here. Like, that... And I even, like, level more, like, alternate things than I normally would on ult accounts, like Lion King and stuff. But yeah, we got like Caesars, Grail, Herc, Tristan, Ku, Robin, right? Yeah, we are pretty slanted in that way, but you know, we got Medea, we got Lion King, Gray. I don't know if we really use Gray, I played 4-4, but yeah, we got a Grail book, that's the thing. God, we got this in like, what was it, like 400 SQ? That was so ridiculous. That's one of the most ridiculous things that's ever happened to me. It's one of the only times we got 2 of the 5-star in one pull. Like, you did a 10 summon, and you got 2 of the rate up. That was the first time it ever happened. It might have happened one other time since then, I'm not sure, but I remember that was the first time it had ever happened. Out of all of my accounts. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, alright. Okay, no that. Ku is so good here, but I've used Ku for this twice now. Like, I really should try to do it without. Yeah, Lion King was on stream, I think. Pretty sure it was. Almost positive it was. 666, decent. Might even incorporate her if I want to get rid of the NP seal. It kind of just depends if it happens at a good or a bad time. There's Asclepius. Chat, I actually feel like this account, in some ways, is more prepared than my regular ult account. At least for the way that I want to play the game, right? My other account has Waver and Joan of Arc and shit, so if it really wants to do stuff, it can be better than this account. But this has more stuff, like, in the area that I, like, want it, I would say. We could bring Herc. The boss doesn't take bonus damage from... Berserkers. Oh, I need to level him. I forgot I took him to 1 or 2 already. So I need to play this account more. I gotta get some of this stuff sorted out. I need to switch it to LD player. I haven't really touched it because of that. Yeah, even though the boss is not weak to Berserkers, we do kind of have to bring Herc. That's fair. Chat, there is a great flaw in this account. It is one of my few accounts in this state. It is a grave. Chat, this is such a bad thing on this account that I would not wish this on my worst enemy. You know, so like if someone else, I wouldn't want someone else to have to suffer what this account has to suffer. And that is not having a craft essence that could universally help any unit on the team, right? Like Golden Sumo, chat. I would not wish the lack of Golden Sumo on my worst enemy, chat. I would not do that, because that is just suffering. That is just pure suffering. And it would be so terrible if you didn't have Golden Sumo. Thankfully, everyone in my chat has Golden Sumo. They wouldn't miss out on such a good craft essence that's so universally good for everything, so. Is that the Mecha girl from Epic 7 in that emote with the gun? I'm assuming that's what that is. I can't, think of anyone else that would be, really. Awfully specific. Anyway, alright,
Emotional damage!
It really would be emotional damage not having, Golden Sumo. And yeah, no, we have Mordred, chat. Don't worry about that. We're gonna have to, like, actually, I'll probably kind of like Mordred so much, I probably will just level Mordred, pretty soon on this account. It doesn't need it. NP1. Did this account pick its free 5-star? I wonder if I picked a Lion King for like extra coins. I might have. Let me check real quick. It's been a minute since I've played this account. I don't know why we got a credit for that. I don't think we did pick up her NP. I'm pretty sure we got NP5 from just right up. Okay, we have picked our free 5-star. Okay, but no NP2 Mordred for us. Oh yeah, they make you watch the... Or do they make you watch that cutscene? Maybe they don't. Where did... There we go. Okay, Mesh, we could go with... There's always K-Scope or something to get the NP right off the bat. I do not remember if this account has a Cope Scope or not. Doesn't look like it. 2 K-Scopes right there, though. Jesus. Oh, good. We have this for the water bitch. Because even though the game tells you through the UI that you can't do that to stop the stun, you actually can. Because this game is made by incompetent twats. But what are you gonna do? Man, we have so many options here. I don't know what to go with. I mean, self-reliant units are good. Man, if I could get his NP off, only 555. Oh, no, we gotta... I should have played one of those lotteries. We had 2 lottery events and I didn't play either of them on this account. That was a mistake. I was too busy with like the co-op account in my main. And then Cairo's not playing his co-op account, so I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs. Still though, if he gets his NP off, it'll be really good damage. Always Bedivere. Always a thing. And really, Ku is a great cleanup unit here, but I'm going to try to not do that. What's our 100 face? 5, 10, 6. What's our Mozart? Wow, only 9. Gotta fix that. Man, I'd love a Rider Caesar. That'd be great. Karna, Santa. Ushi's a decent pick. Nah, Ricky's not good here at all. If she recasts Piercing Vulnerability, we're gonna have a bad time. Kristen is like our only buff removal. So this account doesn't have Zhu Fu yet. That's not surprising though. The last time I played it, she didn't really exist, so... We don't have, Alex? It looks like? Do I not have Alex? I'm guessing I skipped on Alex because we have, Martha. Let's see... This back row is really weak, because Herc is unfortunately pretty bad in this fight. And then she could remove the Piercing Vulnerability, but the boss might not even cast it. And then Ushi's fine, but it's not like she's gonna carry. Like, Ku is the best here by so... Even on this account, all 3 of my accounts, the best way to make sure I beat this is just put Ku in the back. Helps so much for all 3 of these. But I don't want to do it the same way on every fucking account, right? But especially when an account is an ult account and it doesn't have, like, as strong as options and stuff, you use what's practical, and Ku is just so goddamn practical. Could do Enkidu. I don't think the boss is a threat to humanity, but he's still actually quite good. I've not done his new buff though, obviously. I haven't touched this account in quite a while. When Lostbelt 7 dropped, by like a couple of days, he didn't have it yet. Debuff clears fine. But so is default. We'll go default. This depends on how often she does the NP seal. You know, I've only seen the trailer for Fate Strange Fate like 2 or 3 times. I know everyone loves it to death and all that, but yeah, I haven't actually seen it that much. Actually, I need to watch it again because I want to listen to the sound effects. God damn it, dude. This is why I need to move this account over. It's just crashing all the time. But, yeah, I want to listen to the sound effects because I want to see if they're going to have shitty sound effects like the Babylonia anime did. I'm hoping we don't get the bass drop of Aya. That was so bad. So we've memed about this, but I don't think this is just a joke. Now, you can make a joke out of this really easy, but I legitimately think the reason the bass was so insane for Aya and Babylonia was because they were trying to, like, make Aya feel like the strongest NP that you had seen in the anime. I absolutely think that's why they did that. 100%, and it was just absolute torture on the ears. You know what, chat? Hold on. I haven't actually seen the Babylonia Aya NP in a long time. Chat, we're gonna suffer together here. Do brace your eardrums. Yeah, hold on. Gotta make sure I get a video of it that's proper. Okay, here we go. Yeah, let's refresh our memory on just how bad this was. Yeah, the video sizing, I don't have a proper tab for videos right now, but this will have to do.
ならばこの一撃をもって決別の儀としよう。天上の地獄とは創世前夜の終着よ。死をもって静まるがいい。エブマエリス。
Jesus Christ, dude, this video's not even that loud. Dude, that is, if you just look at the percentage difference between Gil talking and that is so bad. That is the worst Aya out of every anime they've ever, and dude, the volume of that is so low. Like, whoever posted that video, they made the volume really low. Oh my god, that is the worst Aya like adaptation they've ever done. Like, fucking Fate Stay Night, Dean Stay Night is better than that, 100%. Oh my god. I'm telling you, because it's so much more than the other NPs throughout, and they did, you know, bass drops in every NP like that. That one is so much louder. I 100% they're trying to do that to try to give the audience the impression of just, you know, massive oomph. Like, oh my god, look how powerful this is. Because they couldn't do that with animation, apparently. Yeah, wow, that is... I couldn't even listen to that. I had to stop that midway, because that's just... That is so funny, though, because... Like, the contrast between, like, the sound effects and Gil's voice acting and the music, like, leading up to it, and then all of a sudden that is so jarring. Like, that is so bad. That is worse than I remembered. That is actually... Which is saying something, because I remembered it being really bad. Oh, she does. That, I remember I hated this on Tristan, and it's because she doesn't cast the stupid gimmick on turn 1. She cast it on turn 2. That is so fucking awkward. Yeah, I fucking hate that. Yeah, I remember really disliking that. Okay, well, we'll just, see how this goes here. Yeah, anyway, back on to Fate Strange Fake. I need to watch that trailer again, which I probably can't on stream because it's probably DMCA nonsense, but I want to see throughout the trailer if there's any hints in like how they're doing the sound effects. So I think it's being done by A1, and they did APOC, and APOC wasn't a very good anime, but that's largely because time and budget and everything, so we'll see. APOC had mid sound effects. They were better than Babylonia, but they weren't as good as some of the other stuff out there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried about A1 doing it. It's just they are very hit or miss. They are very hit or miss. Well, the trailer, some parts of it look really polished and some parts don't. But that's, I think, because it's a movie. It's not releasing for 6 months. So they probably have a lot to still work on. So we'll just have to see. Like if some of those clips though don't get touched up, I will be very disappointed because yeah, some of those clips don't look very good. But with it being 6 months out, that's understandable. So we'll just have to see. But I am concerned. Because my god, I don't want Fate Strange Fake to get a lukewarm adaptation. It needs. I want it like. It's one of their better stories, so it's like it's so bad for the IP, and also just being a fan of the story and the book and stuff, it would just suck for it to be so bad. But yeah, we'll see here. Oh right, I forgot. She's got the 10k burn. That can like kill you immediately. So Tristan's gonna have to just clear the debuffs there, even though I don't have the NP seal yet. Let me look at Chiron's kit. I gotta refresh my memory on his NP here. I know it's got like defense ignore or something. Let's see. Yeah, he removes all defensive stuff first. And he's upgraded, crit down, overcharge more crit down, which that's good. Okay, I think we give the buff though to Tristan. And then I guess no, we'll save the attack up, but we do both of their NPs here. Okay. Overcharge Chiron, because crit down would be great. Although if Chiron goes first, we get to get the art bonus for this art card. Damn it, I gotta do that. And that is nice though, we remove the Pierce Invulnerability and we remove the burn. But I see APOC get a lot of hate for the sound effects, and they weren't the best sound effects I've ever heard, but I thought their like bass drops were fine, right? Sometimes they worked, sometimes they were a little whatever, but like it wasn't the best sound effects I'd ever heard in an anime, but I didn't really have a problem with it. Okay, I should have done the attack up. Overestimating my damage here. But yeah, I'll take APOC sound effects over Babylonia sound effects any day. Oh right, she's debuff immune, so we don't get to crit. Now I can't NP here because I had to throw out my debuff clear already, unfortunately, but I should still do it. Don't know if I should have done that or not. Could have swapped those quick cards around. Man, I would love to see Tristan and Chiron meet canonically. That would actually be really awesome. Guess I do that. Oh fuck! I wasn't paying attention. I could just wait. I literally shit. And we didn't even need to do it that turn because we have evade. Oh my god, the throwing. Son of a bitch. I just kind of forgot that she did the heal down that turn. I wasn't looking. Yeah, I know. You couldn't NP seal Tristan because he was already NP sealed. That's funny. 95%. There we go. Alright, that's nice. Now imagine if I could heal Chiron right now. What a waste. Guess I saved the attack up still for the back row. We'll give it to Enkidu, I guess. I think our front row did pretty well. I don't know how our back row is going to do. I think Herc is going to... Oh my god, Herc is so bad in this fight. Because not only is the boss not take bonus damage from Berserkers, but the boss is AoE. So you're not going to get like that typical last man standing kind of thing out of Herc. Oh. Well, we'll see what happens. This takes a while to get through. Yeah, honestly, her black hole does sound pretty cool. Oh fuck, Martha could just die immediately here, which means she won't be here to, wow, that sucks. She won't be here to, cleanse if the boss does. Here's some vulnerability. Yeah, that probably needs to change. Honestly, the Herc is the problem here. Herc really just does not help the team at any. Funnily enough, though, that making her double MP does feed us MP charge. Enkidu may well have this, we'll see. If he had his buff, I would say absolutely. But even without it, probably gonna do pretty well. I wish I had gotten Kodamine when I did like those 30 summon tickets. Ghost! 32 months, man. That is a very long time. Thank you. A lot of support. But yeah, I get like Ishtar and Phase Ishtar, Tiara and shit from like, you know, one summon ticket and I don't want them. And then I wouldn't mind getting Kodamine at all, and he's quite cool, and nope. See, if I had done Enkidu's buff, he could NP again right now. We'd have the 50% battery. By the way, that was in Kidu with him not having his defense down because the boss is debuff immune. Well, that's satisfying. The boss not taking extra berserker damage, and we do it anyway. we hadn't lost a single stack of guts yet, actually. Well, alright. Kind of sad that Martha kind of just showed up and died immediately, but... And I guess Herc wouldn't care if she recast the Pierce Invulnerability. I underestimated Herc a little bit there. Alright, where is this account when it comes to XP? Free Grail. Oh yeah, even as the alien god, Ogla acts wacky. She's like talking about tennis with MASH when you're fighting her in that stage we just did. And shit like that. Grab some chains. I don't know if we really need them, but... Oh. We have the 600. Okay, well they don't have a time limit, so hold on. Let's look at like where Herc can be. Yeah, Ogla got brain damage though from the slap.
Yeah.
I wonder how strong they're gonna make Cuckoo though, considering she did that to the alien god. We're not even sure Ogla's a beast, actually. Some people think they're gonna debate us, and it's actually Kodomine or something. Chat. Now hear me out. I've thought about this for a while. Like what I would want the final boss to be, and there's several things I think would be more than acceptable. Like I think fighting Guadi again is actually completely acceptable. I don't think they'll do that, but I think that'd be completely acceptable if you like kind of follow the story and what's been going on with the Chaldean and all that. And honestly, Orc could be the final boss. I don't think he's going to be, obviously, but I don't think that'd be a problem either. But what I actually want to be the final boss, and I think it's really fitting looking at a lot of the stuff they've been kind of pointing towards with the story, and a lot of the unexplained mysteries, and like the root of Chaldea, and like Ogla's father, and all the stuff with Kodomine and everything. I hope the final boss is in Fuyuki, which that part seems somewhat likely, at least connected to it, because that singularity never included. And I hope it's Angra, but Angra in his fully born form, not his like half Shiro form or any of that. I think that would be awesome, and I think they've kind of actually laid the groundwork for that with a lot of the early FGO lore that's never been explained, and they're clearly going to revisit at the end anyway. And with Kodomine having a lot of Angra stuff going on, would actually make a lot of sense. And so you could have like Kodomine betray us, surprise, surprise, and maybe side with Angra, or bring Angra about, whatever it is. I think that a lot of people don't realize Angra's like full power is actually still really strong, even though he's like servant form is not. But if the actual Angra got to show up at the end. I think that would make a great final boss. I really do. And even if he ends it, you know, because he actually can become a beast. Now, I think he already had I think a long time ago they gave him a beast number and it wasn't 7. But still, I really think that would make a fantastic final boss. Especially with all the Fuyuki stuff and a lot of the like mysteries and Kodamine and stuff. I think it would work really well. But, well, and I think it's a possibility, actually. I don't think it's hopium entirely. And yeah, that'd be cool if we got an Angra buff and stuff out of it. Wouldn't complain about that. It takes so long doing these level ups. One of these level ups is the same amount of XP as level 1 all the way up to 100. It's pretty ridiculous. It could be Ogla's dad. That's certainly possible as well. Some people think, and this is a possibility too, they might just save the Ogla's dad for like 3.0 or something, which is possible. But yeah, there's a lot of directions they could go with it at the end here. Okay, well this will be enough XP to get him to 102 at least. And then make my inventory suffer. But yeah, with the Konamine stuff that we know now, would not shock me if we get some Angra stuff, because I think the reason his body is in that state is because of something that happened in Fuyuki before 1.0, like before you show up in 1.0. I think that's why Kodamine's body is like that. Alright. Make Herc a little bit stronger here. I might do like one more. I don't think I'll go to 104. I got the XP to do it, but I think that would take too long. Hyphen. Well, we'll use what we got in our inventory and see where that puts us. I'll take that. When I was getting Coup from 118 to 120, I got a super and great success, so I was very happy about that. Ooh! Do it again, game, do it again. Yeah, with how much is in my mailbox, I could absolutely go all the way to 104, but I don't want to do that for that long, so we'll probably go to 103 and just stop there. And then get back to the Lostbelt 7. Now that I think about it, though, I think what they said with Angra was if he had, like, fully body jacked Sakura, he would have become, I forget which beast, well, I don't think it was beast 7, but he could have become a beast. But the varying, like, which beast he became, it being that one might have something to do with just Sakura's personality or whatever. So whatever happens, if he was the final boss of FGO, he wouldn't come about with Sakura. Hell, not be Rasputin / Kodamine, like who knows. But maybe that would change which beast he would be. Because beasts seem to be like They seem to be like grands. It's not like you have one B7, right? It's more like B7 has certain criteria, and if a being meets those criteria, it can be B7, but it's not necessarily the only thing for all of time that can be B7. Right? Just how different grands in different areas and stuff can be different. So yeah, who knows? So we'll see. That's a face. You know what? We'll show this part of the story real quick. Yeah, it took me longer. They still haven't said that this is Cuckoo, but this is definitely Cuckoo here. And I don't know why it took me so long to realize it. Yeah, I didn't realize it until after I was done with Lostbelt 7, and I was like, wait a minute. At some point I was kind of going back to the story and thinking about stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, who was the... Did we ever learn who bitch slapped the alien god? I'm like, wait a minute. It's a giant green pillar. And I'm pretty sure before the slap you can like see the hair and everything, so yeah, I don't know why I didn't realize that. Because when we first were doing it, right, and we hadn't seen all the characters yet, but we knew about a few of them, you know. So I was kind of like, I wonder, anything was on the table, right, for who this could have been, right? Where it's not really the case anymore, because now we've seen what like the bad guy looks like and stuff like that. So I'm guessing we're going to repair this at least somewhat, and we're going to use it as like a summoning platform to summon a bunch of shit in the next part of Lostbelt 7. I'm sure we're going to use Excalibur on Ort, but if it solo kills Ort, I'm going to be incredibly pissed off. By the way, this not doing too much against Ogla, I think is a huge hint that she's not really a villain. And they've been hinting at that a lot, not just with the amnesia thing, but I think before she lost her memory, she like knows something we don't, and she's actually trying to help, air quotes, obviously in a kind of a dumbass way, but because she never bleached the earth or any of that kind of stuff. Okay, here comes the green nonsense. So apparently, Nido Chris is alive. She's just like super foobar. And then like no one talks about her ever again though after that one scene, which is kind of messed up. Yeah, like that shade of green is very similar. Yeah, look at that. Look at the inner hair being like that. Yeah, that's 1000% Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs there. And like you can even see like those kind of circles here, and you see those around the ship later when she's picking it up. But yeah, that's definitely Cuckoo there. But yeah, she gets like bitch slapped, and what's funny is what damages the ship is actually the alien god getting launched downwards like through the ship. That's like what damages it. But yeah, she gets slapped here into the ground, and then she gets amnesia. Good shade of green, though. That is pretty funny. All right. That'd be cool if Ort was a replayable boss, like Kama or something, but don't hold your breath. It is actually possible that someone will eventually beat that first fight with Ort someday, because if you look at it, it's not, there's no mechanics there that really prevent you from doing it. He just hits really hard, and he removes your buffs really often, and he NPs every other turn. But, like, for example, if he removed your buffs before NPing, it'd be pretty fucked. But he does it after NPing, so you can always face tank the NP. So, like, if there is a unit that has like an NP that can consistently put up like an evade for one hit or a vulnerability for one hit, and then have a toolkit or an NP that also heals them, and then they're maybe an alter ego, so he's doing half damage. It's possible that someone could just stall against him forever and just loop, and it would take so long, it'd be painful. But it is possible that someday they add an alter ego. Like if, what's her name? Kiara, if she had like a one-hit invulnerability on her NP, she could probably do it. Unless there's like a mechanic there we don't know about where he gets like another attack up as the fight goes on or something. Is there still hope for Arthur to beat B6 in Prototype collab? No, that hasn't sunk. Actually, they've just hinted at it more. They completely confirm that Nero in Arcade is not the beast that Arthur is hunting. And they just remind you that that's still a plot point there. And some of the stuff with Lady Avalon in FGO Mobile is alluding to that as well, so... I'd actually say it's the opposite. It's clearly going to happen at some point. I'm kind of, at this point, expecting it, though, to be, like, 3.0 or a major event while we're waiting for, like, 7.3 or whatever the fuck they're going to do, right? But yeah, it's still on the table, absolutely. But there's actually more than one B6, and you've got, like, the prototype world, and you got the regular world and stuff, so there's a lot going on there. But yeah, I wouldn't just say there's hope. It's like it's clearly going to happen. Oh yeah, this part you like get out of the underworld by giving him your command spells. Yeah, I don't like his art design. It's just way too out of place, and then I don't even like it that much. Like with Columbus, his art's out of place, but in a vacuum it still looks great. I don't even like that guy's art, to be honest. Like his neck just looks ridiculous. We've already watched this story, so I don't know why I keep watching it. Bootleg Black Panther, it's not so much the art quality, it's more of the art design. Yeah, boy, I did not care for that. You know, he does kind of look like Claymore's like cover art, not like the page-to-page art. But off memory, let me look. It's been a long time since I've seen Claymore like cover art. I mean, there's some similarities. It's definitely not like the exact same art style, but it does kind of have that like kind of washed out kind of look. Boy, that was a weird series, Claymore. No, I have not seen his stage 3, if that's a thing. I wonder if it's more normal looking. Probably. I imagine he's going to be more of a typical god in that stage. Alrighty, well these guys aren't tough enough for us to really need to use their skills in any meaningful way, so I'm just gonna do this Buster up. And then we'll do Rainbow Chain to Buster's last, because it's the AoE one, and then the extra attack. So the real question is, when they add her, is she going to be like this version or different? I do think she'll be at least somewhat different, because like, her animations just don't seem finished, right? Like with her looping her art card over, the same animation over and over, I don't think it'll be like that. Now, while they're at it, they might well, like, get rid of the AoE stuff, right? And they might justify that with, like, at the end of the story, and when you summon her and stuff, she's weaker now, right? They might do something like that. I'd actually like it if they kept the AoE stuff. I don't think it's OP, and I'd actually like them to incorporate, like, pick some of the old servants that deserve AoE extra attacks and just give it to them. And don't spam it, though. Don't give it to everybody. Every other new character doesn't need to have AoE cards. But, and I don't want there to be any characters, ever, where their quick art and buster are all AoE. I think it should be a case-by-case thing when it makes sense, and you can do it balance-wise. Like, maybe you've got an art character with a triple art deck, and they have art up, and you want those to be AoE, do that, right? But I don't think anyone should ever have universally AoE stuff. It actually doesn't sound busted, though. It doesn't. If anything, it's kind of weak right now, because it works like Guadia. Guadia's normal cards that are AoE have a lower multiplier, just like the NPs do. So it's not even remotely busted. And like, how could it literally, in a world where everyone is NP, 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 and NPs refund themselves, how is a normal card being AoE even relevant? Like, NPs do so much more damage, and NPs can loop off of themselves, and you don't have to draw the NP, you're giving it guaranteed. So it's not even good, it's just like fun and unique and flavorful. And as long as like an AoE normal card does less damage than a single target normal card, that way if you're like Beowulf and you do your big single buster, it's always better than, you know, some AoE buster, then it's fine. So there's no problem. So yeah, I don't think it's an issue in the slightest. They just have to be smart about it. Unfortunately, Lasagna is not normally smart, so they could fuck it up. But yeah, as long as AoE normal cards are not the entire deck and not given to every servant, and then also weaker, just how like AoE NPs are weaker than single target NPs, then it's all good. So I actually think it'd be very good for the game, just add some variety and flavor. What would bother me though is if they add it and then only new characters get AoE attacks and they don't go back. Because like, Tesla's not OP if suddenly his extra attack is AoE. That would barely make any difference. It would do nothing, right? If like Herc's extra attack was AoE, that'd be so minor, right? It's baby buff, fucking baby buff, right? So tiny. So yeah, as long as they pick and choose and they're smart about it and they don't like make it a blanket thing, I think it would be really good for the game. You combine that with the rainbow change, you just have a lot more to think about. And so I think it's great. But we'll see. Anyway, she's obviously going to change though when she's playable, at least somewhat, just because she just doesn't seem finished. Like no NP, art card loops over and over again, stuff like that. And then they may well get rid of her AoE, which I think that would be lame. I'm not even an Ogla fan, but I'm like, if they get rid of her AoE, I'm going to be disappointed as fuck. Okay, he'll die to our AoE stuff, I think. Yeah, a lot of the chariot animations should be AoE. I think it should be a universally liked change. I don't think anyone would have a problem with it. Like, absolutely not. I do not think anyone would have a problem with it. And I don't think, I can't think of a single character that if all you did was make their extra attack AoE, I don't think that it would. If anything, it'd be a nerf actually in some cases, because the extra attack multiplier would probably go down for it being AoE. So, and actually, because of that, they might not do it, which sucks. But it is what it is. I mean, she'll get a class, but that class might just be neutral against everything. That might be what it does, right? But she'll get a class, because I don't think she's even classless here. It's just you don't know what her like spirit origin is, essentially. Like it's question mark because you're unaware of it, but I think there is a symbol there, you just can't see it. But they might, because it's unknown, they may not have it apply like whatever it's supposed to do, right? And it could be story only, and then when you summon her, you get like alter ego or foreigner or, you know, Bob's your uncle or whatever the fuck, right? So, you know, we'll just have to see. But like, you know, I think it's very likely she's getting added, and that kind of thing. But like, how much she changes between now and then, we'll just have to see. Yep, there's always Pretender. Actually, with some of the lore surrounding her, that may end up being the case. Okay, we're now in UC Gundam timeline, as evident by we're in a colony. But yeah, it doesn't say none, it says unknown, right? It's different. Because you fought classless things before, like Corrupted Ushi, and stuff like that. Or like, you even had Nameless when his like spirit origin got messed up and stuff like that. But yeah, this just straight up says unknown, right? It's not like scratched out or blank or anything like that. Fucking Lostbelt 6 nonsense. Unfortunately, I think this kind of bullshit is just going to be such a staple for FGO moving forward, and I am so not a fan. Imagine getting to use Hercules on the Hercules account, chat. Try to get that to level 6 if I can. Oh yeah, it could be a new class, no question. Could be Beast, could be, you know, Fluffy Muffins, you know, who knows. Yeah, we can't even get Bond, don't know. The worst outcome. Does she have her buff right now? Let's find out. I think she does. Yep. 90% crit. Oh, dude, he added Alter Ego and Moon Cancer together, and I really gotta stress this because I think some people don't realize this. Fate CCC, right? Fate Extra CCC. There was no Alter Ego class in that game, and there was no Moon Cancer class in that game. That's an FGO thing. So, but yeah, they made up 2 classes, just boom boom like that. And then we had Faker, and then just for hype, they essentially... Because here's the thing, Faker didn't have any like parameters set in stone at that point. Oh my god, this makes me angry. Because it's complicated. And people are stupid and they're going to defend it. And they'll act like Natsu's always decided what Faker was. We just didn't know. And so we just had to make Pretender because it wouldn't work with Faker. But that's so bullshit because Faker, the character, also qualifies as a Pretender. So, like, why didn't we just use Pretender in case files? If we're big braining that much. Right? It's just stupid. Like, we literally had the Faker class that the character Faker falls under. And we had no set parameters for what the class was. We just knew she was a Faker class, but we didn't know much about the class. We just didn't learn it. And then FGO comes along, and then instead of using Faker, they use Pretender. And then when they add Faker to the game, they are like, oh yeah, she also can be a Pretender. And it's just like, this is actually stupid, right? They should have just used Pretender and case files then, right? Or used Faker and FGO. They're just having both of those is just absolutely silly. And people told me that Gunner is stupid. Like, having Gunner is stupid because it's too similar to Archer. And we have Pretender and Faker. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And at least with Gunner, they said that, like, the whole thing with Gunner is it's derivative of Archer. It's like an alternate version of Archer. Like how Avenger is an alternate version of Berserker. And like, how can anyone say Gunner's stupid and then like Avenger's not? Because Avenger is literally what Gunner is to Archer, which is fitting because that's how they're supposed to be lore-wise. Oh yeah, and Liz is a pretender now, yeah. Oh, so silly. Back on AoE and single target attacks, Guadia's art card is actually his hardest hitting card because it's single target, whereas Quick and his Buster are both AoE. Now his Buster keeps up disproportionately well with the art card because it is a Buster, and Busters that have the higher base, you know, multiplier and all that. And all that stuff stays true, so. Although I guess they might end up having similar issues to like how they decide to do the math. Because like with NPs, it's not like perfect math. Like Buster, even though it's got the higher base, because the like, percentage they give you on the NP rank and all that is lower proportional. Buster NPs actually do slightly less NP, or less damage than Art, and Art does slightly less damage than Quick. It's very slight though, like very, very, very slight, but it is absolutely a thing. Like it's noticeable enough that like the difference between Buster and Quick, you can see. Where the difference between Buster and Art is not so big. Yeah, the thing is, Benkei was created before Nasu ass-pulled the class, and Nasu wasn't gonna ass-pull a class for such an unpopular character. That's the thing, I mean, when you look at most of the classes they just pull out of the ether in FGO. It's always for a popular character or a waifu or something like that. They don't just randomly do it. Like, they're not gonna give Phantom of the Opera a Phantom class, right? He's just not popular, right? That's just not gonna happen. But if it was some crazy popular character, or someone Nasu really liked, or a really major character for the story or whatever, then they'll just make shit up. Guadia's art card is pretty good. Best part of the Solomon anime is Nightingale fighting Guadia. That was actually also, I think, like the most, like, actually, like, impressive. Like, that was really surprising. Like, the servants were having a really hard time up to that point. Like, fighting Guadia head on. Almost anytime someone had any kind of, like, they might gank him or hit him in the back or whatever, but almost anytime Guadia put his attention towards someone, they, had a bad time. But then, and, you know, Nightingale didn't, like, fully win or anything there, but she like was able to like stand toe-to-toe for a while where like no one else was, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, she's throwing hands. I really hate how they nerfed the shit out of Solomon though. They didn't really nerf him, they obfuscated what he did and made it look like he did nothing, and they tried to make it, and they did that on purpose, like 100%. The way they like worded the dialogue and the way they framed everything, they didn't want to like retcon what happens in the game, but they really wanted to make it seem like, you know, everything was still to play for and everything's still at high stakes because they wanted the main character to be, you know, saving the day and all that. But ultimately, the fight between the main character and Guadia is completely pointless, and it doesn't matter at all because Romani already pretty much did what needed to be done there. But yeah, the anime frames it in a way where you're not going to really know that unless you've already played the game, and that was very frustrating. And actually, I think the Guadia fight has more oomph to it when it is basically meaningless, actually, especially with like what Guadia's on about and, you know, kind of the way his character arc goes. I actually think it's kind of perfect, so they really fucked that up in my opinion. Yeah, I know, they did the same thing in the Babylonia anime. They just made shit up to make the main character important. Like, that literally didn't happen in the game, and they just made it up. And it's because self-inserts are, like, a big thing in Japan. Like, they're not that popular in the West, but they're huge in Japan. You know, people gotta feel like they're beating Tiamat and blah, blah, blah. It's stupid. Yeah, I fucking love Guaidia, dude. He was great. My only complaint about Guaidia is they should have built up his character throughout the whole story. They just hint at him in London, and then they don't give you anything until Solomon. That's stupid. They should have been building up and following his character, and then, like that. The ending for him, I think, would have been so much more impactful if you had had a lot of, you know, his character, especially before he's really understanding emotions and stuff. If we had been seeing more of that character along the way, I think that ending would have been a lot better. And I already see the same problem happening in 2.0. They're just not building up whatever the final boss is. They're just not doing it, unless it's her. But even her, they're not doing it until literally Lostbelt 7, so yeah, not really a fan. Yeah, that's something I don't like, is because they hadn't been building up Solomon and Guaidia until the end, they like just dump it all in your lap like that. That's shit. Like how much better would it, like some of those flashbacks they did and stuff, that would have been so much better if we had saw some of that sooner, right? We should have had some of the vague hints and stuff back in like Oceanus, which I mean you do with like David, but like it's so vague. But yeah, David should have really started to give you some insight to what's going on, because David already knew that Romani was Solomon. I didn't have to tell you that, but they could have used that as a springboard to start developing Guaidia and Solomon. And then London should have dropped a lot more. Like London should have had some of those flashbacks. I don't see how that would make this story worse. I think Nasu is just obsessed with these like last second surprises. But I don't think that's good storytelling. I really don't. It works sometimes, right? Like for example, this is where it works. Is Heavensfield. Kodamine being the last second final boss of Heavensfield, that actually works. Almost every other time Nasu's done it, doesn't work at all. Not like Guaidia would have been so much better if he was being built up throughout the story. And also, you just waste time, right? Like a lot of the weight and awesomeness that could be happening in the Solomon chapter, you have to waste on exposition dumping, right? And like that's not good. Like we don't like it would have been better if when you get to Solomon, you already know some of that stuff. Maybe you learn a few things, but you should already know some of that stuff, and then you can just get to the dramatic stuff and like Solomon fighting Guaidia and all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, it just kind of sucks the way that they did it. All right, Buster Chain here. Yeah, I think David was the most wasted potential. At least he's got that interlude, which is nice and all, but basically, it's not like Nasu didn't know that David was Solomon's dad. And they even hint at it a little bit in Oceanus, very vaguely, but I just don't think they didn't want to use David in a serious way. They didn't want him to be a reoccurring character, so they just kind of forced him not to be. But yeah, if you're gonna do a last second surprise final boss, it has to be done in the right kind of way, right? Like with Kodamine and Heavensfield. But yeah, I don't think no matter who the final boss is of 2.0, it's gonna have the same problem with it just being a last second thing, because we're already in Lostbelt 7, so Nasu is just not good at that kind of thing, and I don't know if it's even him not being good at it. I think some of it is him just overvaluing oh man, look how surprising this is, that kind of thing. Like, and it's not just Nasu, Arknights does it too. Like, if you look at Arknight's writing, it's really obvious they're aware about like Patriot and Frost Nova from the beginning. The writers know. They didn't make it up as they went. They know that stuff, and they know that like background with Tallulah, like before Tallulah got possessed. You can tell they already knew that stuff, but they're refusing to tell the player about any of it, right? So for those that don't know, in Arknights, like the baddie, before you met them, right? Like you kind of meet them kind of far into their character arc, if you will, and they're being possessed and they're evil, but you don't know that, so you just see them as evil all the time. And then really late into the story, like way after the fact, for most of like the story, you learn that there was all this stuff that before you showed up, and this character was a good guy, and they were working really hard, and trying to save the day and went through all these stuff, and then they've been like possessed, and now they're evil. But and like these two other villains that work with them were kind of like good guys the entire time, and they never did anything bad, and all they've done is like save civilians and stuff. But you don't learn that until like the last second, and it's just like. But you can tell the writers knew the entire time. Like, you can absolutely tell that the writers knew the entire time, because there's, like, really small hints to it and stuff. But, like, it would have been just way better if you learned that sooner. It's way more dramatic that way, and it's, like... I don't know why, but a lot of these games, man, the writers just, like... They think this, like, last-second rug pull or whatever is just awesome, but it just makes things feel like Monster of the Week or, just, you know, exposition dumps and stuff. It's not good. Yeah, I will say, okay, here's the thing. Because Nasu's talked about this in interviews and stuff. It's not like, Nasu does not see himself as some big brain writer. He doesn't see himself as like Tolkien or anything like that. Like, he takes himself pretty, unseriously, right? He's not, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If he just likes, you know, writing off the cuff or whatever, or being, you know, very silly and making shit up as he goes, because he's joked about it, right? There's like an interview in Face Strange Fake where the writer of Face Strange Fake is saying he likes to try to be consistent and respect the source material and like what's been stated in the character material books years ago and that kind of stuff. And now he's like, I just, you know, make it up as I go and, you know, whatever. You know, so Nasu's pretty open about just, you know, that kind of thing. But a couple of things. One, if you're gonna write that way, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? If you're gonna be a, you know, plot armory writer, you know, cart before the horse, you know, characters first, story second, that kind of stuff, that's fine. But then you can't act like there's any more depth to it, right? Like, doing things like the character material books and trying to apply logic to a lot of this stuff is counterintuitive to your writing style at that point. So you can't try to act like, because he's basically begging the fans to take the universe seriously and all that kind of stuff by doing the character material books and by the bios and in the games and stuff, explaining the abilities and putting numbers on things and explaining ranks and getting so you can't do both, right? You can't be a plot armory, just do what you want, emotions give you power kind of writer, and then also try to make things feel like a D&D game, right? You can't do both. They're way too much at odds with each other. And I think a big problem is Nasu is just surrounded by yes men, it really seems like. And I think he needs some people around him to help focus some of this stuff and, you know, have better editing and that kind of stuff. Because I think you can kind of have... so it's not Nasu, I don't think it's Nasu's fault, right? Nasu never took himself that seriously to begin with, right? And that's fine. It's absolutely fine. And he said this, he just likes writing characters, man. And he likes, because here's the thing with Nasu, is he'll make a character, it's a new toy, and he wants to play with the new toy. So he wants to make sure this new toy gets to be active in this story, right? That you can just see this through his writing. That's 100% the way he does it, right? So he doesn't want an old toy fucking shit up and preventing the new toy from getting to do a lot in the story that he's writing, right? So he saw Oberyn and got really attached, and now he wants Oberyn to play a bigger role in the story, and that fucks a lot of shit up in the story, right? Because the story wasn't really designed for that. And you can just see that in all kinds of stuff, like Tristan not being really respected in Lostbelt 6 because he wants Burgess to be the center of attention, right? So he makes characters, and then he wants to make stories tailored around those characters so they get to show off. And logic be damned. And the thing is, that is okay, but again, it doesn't really work in the context of how they've kind of tried to make the Fate universe and the Nasuverse and that kind of stuff. So for like, because a lot of anime does that, a lot of like one seasonal anime and things like that, or just very, you know, very undeep anime, you know, they're very, you know, bullshit with the plot armor, and, you know, they'll have a character arc in a shonen anime or whatever, and it's because it's that character's time to shine, the plot just accommodates that, right? Because there's a real difference between like the writing style of like, I don't know, George R.R. Martin or something, and then like, you know, a fucking shonen anime. You know, it's very different the way the writer is approaching the characters and how they interact with the world and the events and that kind of stuff. And so yeah, Nasu is like kind of trying to have a bit of both, and it just doesn't work. I mean, it does not fucking work. And yeah, it's kind of a problem. But yeah, Natsu is very much a character writer, and he just contrives shit to work around the characters that he wants to focus on at that time. And like Heaven's Feel was like that. Like he wanted to make sure Sakura, Medusa, Kotomine, and stuff got screen time, and you know, anything in the way of that just gets shoved to the side, no matter if it makes sense or not. Okay, last enemy here. Don't have any damage this hand, unfortunately. Oh man, Veach was so stupid. That was awful. And the problem with Veach, this always bugs me. And like a series I can think of, this is a series I really don't like, and this is part of why I don't like it, but there's a million reasons I don't like it. But Mulu, right? Never liked that series. It does this thing where they have a very contrived premise, right? They want a very specific kind of setting with like using mechs instead of, you know, jet fighters and things like that. And they want the world to be in a very specific like state with everyone being scared of the monsters and all that. So they're trying to like force a very specific situation. Yeah, Mulu or whatever the fuck it's called. Anyway, but then they also try to be logical, right? But their logic sucks, and they're not an engineer, right? So they try to have like these logical explanations for why they can't use jets and things like that, and why they use mechs and stuff. But the logic just falls so flat on its face, and it's just stupid, right? And so I'm like, this would be better if you just had mechs for head, like unironically, right? When you try to make it make sense, but what you're trying to make sense is daft garbage. It doesn't work, obviously, right? So it's just like embarrassing listening to the series try to justify this logic, and it's just absolute drivel. And then you have idiots that actually eat it up, which is like, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, that always bugs me, is when like a writer tries to act like they're being logical, but then they're not like smart enough to realize that they're not being logical, and there's like all kinds of holes in this, and it doesn't actually hold up to any kind of scrutiny. And yeah, the Natsuverse has been guilty of that several times, but Mulu is so bad about that. It's absolute nightmare. Yeah, basically, it's okay. I gotta break this down. So there's these specific kind of alien that can only shoot lasers at a specific height accurately, and it's at the height that jets fly. The thing is, it's not at the height jets fly. Jets can fly closer to the ground. And then they've invented this technology that allows them to make mechs and have the mechs maneuver around and stuff. So why didn't they just use that technology with that kind of jet propulsion and that kind of armor and everything and just put it on the jets? It makes no sense, right? Because this is what people don't understand. Aerodynamics, okay? I'm sorry, the human form is just not that aerodynamic. There is no reason, if you're going to have the technology to have like jets that allow you to side boost and hover and those kinds of things, there's no reason to apply that kind of jet technology to a humanoid shape. It's just stupid, right? And even if you have like technology that allows like the pilot to manipulate a machine to have like the articulation of a hand and stuff, you don't need a humanoid form to do that. You can have like a robot hand or thin instrument come out of like a compartment in a tank or a jet or a helicopter. No problem, right? So there's no reason to have a humanoid shape whatsoever. The only reason to use a humanoid shape for something is an exoskeleton, right? And we actually are starting to develop that technology in real life. So exoskeletons have usefulness because you're basically enhancing just the human form and you're staying human sized. So you have all the benefits of like, you know, being on small, and you can go into a building, and you know that kind of stuff, right? There's many reasons to have an exoskeleton. There's no reason to have a giant mech at all. Zero, none, right? It's completely illogical. It's not aerodynamic. It's not weight efficient. There's nothing good about it. So if you have the technology in Muluv to like have the mechs move like they do and hover in place and like be able to jet sideways and backwards and stuff like that, you could just apply that kind of technology to an airplane. There's literally no reason you can't, and the airplane is just more aerodynamic. Now, you'd probably change the jet a bit if you're going to be able to hover in place. Actually, jets can hover in place now, and they actually have been able to do that for a long time. Only certain jets can, not all jets can, but like plenty of jets can indeed hover in place. Like I think the F-35 can, the Herring can, I think there's one other one. But yeah, they've already been able to do that. If you can add side boosters to jets. You absolutely can. If you have the technology to put on a humanoid mech, you could put side boosters and back boosters and front boosters and all that on an airplane, right? And so that logic just falls super flat. They're like, oh no, because of these aliens that have super high accuracy and this certain velocity, we can't use airplanes, but we can make mechs hover and fly and all this shit. You would just apply that technology to other shapes, not a goddamn humanoid mech. But my point is, just don't do it. Just be like Gundam and just use the mechs. This is actually really important in my opinion, especially if your readers are smart. Now, if your readers are idiots, it won't matter, because some people, they hear that logic about with Muluv and they act like that's legitimate, and it's fucking not. But anyway, so when your readers are intelligent, you're going to just add this massive disconnect where like half of the story is trying to inviting them to use their logical brain, but then there's so much stupid fantasy bullshit. Right, this just doesn't jive, right? So you either be like Gundam and you're just like, yep, nope, you just mechs, right? Or you don't, right? Do not try to have your cake and eat it too with that kind of stuff. And yeah, Nasu, I think, having a very similar problem with several things in Fate. So, because I love mechs, I love mechs to death, right? But I don't like when mech series try to act, and the thing is, sometimes these writers, I think, actually are drinking their own Kool-Aid, and they actually think if we had the technology to power a humanoid mech, we would. No, we wouldn't. That's the fatal like mistake a lot of writers make. They think if you just have good enough technology to make a giant mech move around and fly and stuff, we would do that. We wouldn't, right? We'd make a hover tank. We'd make a better jet. We'd make a better helicopter. We would make there's just nothing practical about a flying humanoid shape, right? It's just bad, right? And even if you have the technology, again, to manipulate a robot, a giant robot hand, and that could be useful for like building things and picking up things and stuff. You could apply that, you know, as an instrument and stuff to another machine that's not humanoid, right? Like a tank is so much more practical than a walking mech. It's not even close. A tank is so much better for like weight distribution and those kinds of things. It's not even close. Like, it's just so much better. You know, but yeah, a lot of writers just don't get that, and so they try to logic it in, and it's never going to work. And here's the thing, you don't have to logic it in. You just have the mechs. Everyone is okay with just accepting the mechs are there to be cool. Everyone's okay with that, right? But then don't try to be like super like legit logical, trying to, you know, in universe explain why they're doing it. Don't do that. Just don't fucking do that, right? Big robot goes burn, it's really cool. Everyone's happy with that, right? Like, god damn it. And here's the thing, I like mechs, but I also like jets, and I also like tanks and that kind of stuff, and I like just engineering in general. So I don't get why we have to just always shit on, you know, mechs and tanks and everything, or jets and tanks and everything. It's kind of annoying. It's like we can have fun with all of these things. Because yes, mechs are awesome. I love mechs, and I'd be pissed if every mech series just dropped the mechs and just started using tanks all the time and jets all the time. That would suck. But it also sucks that there's almost no jets in anything ever. What about transforming robots? That's a whole other thing, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, I wish we did have more. I don't even know why jets don't get more hype. I guess people are just used to them now. But jets are amazing. I mean, they're going so fast. I think a lot of people don't realize how fast jets go. Like, they don't grasp just how quick they are. But yeah, they're so fast. They look really cool. They're like really sleek and everything. They've got crazy, you know, abilities with like being able to level a city block. Right? Shit's nuts. So yeah, it sucks that you never get any fiction really with that kind of stuff. And if you want to get sci-fi about it, I'd love to see like hover tanks, and you can make hover tanks look really cool. And there's some artists out there that do that. Like some people say you can't make hover tanks look cool. Yes, you can. You can have, because like there's a degree of blending of practicality and fantasy that's fine, right? I always say this. It's kind of like, it's okay if you want your universe to be somewhat logical. People wear armor to be tankier and like block blows and stuff, but then the armor is not like the most practical looking. That's okay, right? If you want to use a fantasy sword, maybe it's oversized or whatever, but it's at least shaped somewhat logically, and the guy's not holding the blade and swinging around the handle, right? Shit like that. Don't, I know what chat's gonna say. Do not go there. Do not go there. One little niche thing, don't start. People do this all the time though, like they'll use like this one example from one book and act like everyone was running around fighting with pummels and shit. Not a thing. Anyway, that's such a meme now. But yeah, there's a middle ground where you can be like somewhat logical where things make a degree of sense, and like if you have mechs, the mechs aren't just like, you know, completely defying the laws of physics and that kind of thing. That's fine, right? You can have fantasy swords, but then have them, you know, shaped reasonably, or you at least hold the blade and use the sharp part, as you know, and that kind of stuff. So, you know, hover tanks don't have to look like exactly like what you think a hover tank would look like. There's a degree of liberty you can take with it. And there's artists that do that, where they try to make like designs for like, you know, futuristic hover tanks and jets and things like that, and they try to make it still look cool and whatnot, and but then also, you know, believable, right? And it's actually really awesome. There's some really great artists out there that do that, and some of it, it's just shocking to me that we never get any of that in like actual games and anime and things like that. I actually haven't seen Top Gun Maverick. I've heard though it's actually decent, where it's like, you know, it's like, it's not like, a lot of times you have like these sequels now that happen like way after, right? You have like sequels to like 30-year-old franchises and stuff like that, and they shouldn't be made, and they're just terrible. But I've heard that one doesn't fall into those traps, where like it's like a sequel made way later, and it could fall into those traps, and it just doesn't. And so that's good. I have not seen it. I will see it at some point though. I will do that. But yeah, I know they try to find that middle ground of obviously being kind of you know, showy and a bit unrealistic, but then still being realistic enough that it's not absurd and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'll have to check that out at some point. Okay, Mash is going to fucking die. Let's see if she can get a last second smack in here. This enemy only has... How long have I been on this stage just standing here? Because Nash doesn't even have a card, and this enemy only has 23k but another break bar, so... Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, I don't know why I haven't even seen that Top Gun movie. I'm gonna have to do that. Dude, every movie, man, how did I not break that health bar? Hello? We had 23, what the fuck? We had all that, okay, well, you guys suck. How did that happen? Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess he's got some kind of hidden defense up gimmick here, but, holy shit, it's very frustrating loving jets, and then like every movie like Godzilla and everything else, the jets are just idiots. For some reason they're flying at super close range, and then, okay, so even if a jet like got caught and it was at close range, it'd still be way more maneuverable and faster than they ever show them in these movies and stuff. But then for some reason they just engage at like short range. Like there's nothing Godzilla or like King Kong could do against a fucking modern jet at all. They can literally engage from out of sight because of satellites, right? It's like, are you kidding me? Right? And for some reason these jets, now I get it, for dramatic reasons you don't necessarily want the jets fighting from so far away they can't see each other, or the jet fighting a monster from so far away you can't see them and stuff like that. But then they still make them fly around like idiots. They get like an arm, even if you're going, okay, if you're fighting King Kong, right? It's one thing for like for style and drama and stuff to have the jets close enough that you can see them. Okay, I get that. Why would they ever fly in arm's distance? Like, why? Why would you ever do that? And like, I'm sorry, no offense to orangutans and chimpanzees and gorillas and everything. They don't hold a goddamn candle to what a fucking jet fighter can do, right? So even if the monkey big, monkey ain't ever getting anywhere close to a goddamn jet fighter, even if the jet fighter needs to be in seeing distance, right? There's no way, right? It's just absurd, right? You got like King Kong smacking jets out of the air. I'm just like, this is the stupidest thing I've like ever seen. And like in like Pacific Rim and like some of the Godzilla movies and stuff. God, I think it was Pacific Rim. I don't remember, but there was like some monster kaiju movie where you had like a big monster on like a bridge or something. I don't really remember. And like the jets were so close that like when the monster moved, they flew into it and blew up. And I'm like, are you stupid? Like he moved his tail a little bit or something and they flew into it. And I'm just like, that is so stupid. Yeah, that sounds right. I think it was like near the start. I mean, that is just stupid. Like that would never happen. There's no trajectory the jet would be on at a distance where if the monster moved a bit, you would fly into it. That is just so moronic, right? And that's like insulting to every aircraft pilot that has ever lived, right? It's like it's on a bridge and you found a way to fly into it, like the monster on the bridge, right? It's so stupid. Oh my god, it's so stupid. And I remember the Godzilla movie. What's the pterodactyl one? The really big like flaming pterodactyl. Starts with like an R. But he does like a Rodan or something like that. Yeah, I think Rodan's it. That's right. Yeah, I remember I played a Godzilla fighting game, and I remember when you select the characters, you have like the dramatic voice saying the name of the monsters. I remember that. And anyway, fucking Rodan does a barrel roll in place, and he kills like 10 jets. Like, what? Why? Like, you would have to try. Like, your objective would have to be to do that, right? You'd have to be like you're playing a video game, and the objective pops up, like, die to Rodan's barrel roll move, right? Like, you have to be and then get 10 planes, like, to all die. Like, how do you do that? Like, maybe one plane somehow, but like 10 of them? Like, it's just absolutely stupid, right? He's literally he's not twirling as he goes or anything. He just does a barrel roll and they're all like flying directly above and below him and like, what are you, like, no one's that stupid, right? You have to like try to fly badly for that to happen. Like, it's so dumb. And if you, any time these movies use jets and stuff, if you watch the scenes, they always pick camera work that will basically hide how stupid the jets have to be, right? Like, they're not gonna have shots that really show how dumb it would be to actually fly that way, right? They always use camera work to conceal it. But yeah, it sucks. I love jets like just as much as I like mechs. Like, they're pretty much tied. Right? I love them both. And then mechs get to be awesome all the time, and jets never do. Like they have Top Gun, and like that's pretty much it. Dude, there's this anime, this old anime, but it was I think it was animated well. I think it was a movie. I don't remember what it was, but it was like an old anime, but it was animated decently well off memory. But there was like this big dramatic scene. It was like a mecha movie, and there was only one scene with a jet in it, and it was like a big thing. They were doing like the whole cowboy versus samurai showdown kind of thing, right? They were making like a big deal, right? That like a jet was on the way. And so, of course, the mech pilot is like the main character or whatever, right? So it's from his perspective, not the jet pilot's perspective. And somehow the mech wins, right? And at least they maybe know how to like work for it, but like somehow the mech wins. And they try to act like it's like so logical that it wins. And it's like, it's so not. It's just, it's like the amount, and I remember there's like a YouTube video of it I saw a few years ago. And thankfully all the YouTube comments are pointing out like just how stupid the jet would have to be to actually lose. Even with the like sci-fi made-up abilities the mech has, the jet would just have to be the biggest idiot on the planet. And even then, it's like, it's basically impossible, right? It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's just every jet and everything ever. Yeah, they get Yamcha'd, right? They always get Yamcha'd. And then, yeah, it sucks. It sucks. And tanks get the same treatment. Like, I don't like tanks as much as jets. They are cool. I do like tanks. A lot of like more modern tanks too also have some pretty cool designs and stuff. But I don't like them as much. But tanks are still cool, right? There's a lot of capabilities that people don't realize. They're a lot faster than people realize. They're a lot more maneuverable than people realize. And they're pretty neat. But yeah, they don't get any love either. They're just always fodder and die immediately. So, I know what you're talking about, Master, but I never really watched it. But I do remember occasionally, like on TV, I remember that SWAT Cat, like, cartoon existing, but I don't think I ever watched, like a full episode of it. Also, I remember this. This will tell you how, I gotta have a caveat here. My mother is not this crazy anymore. She's actually the extreme opposite of this now. But when I was a youngin', my mother was kinda nuts, and we were in a cult, unfortunately, so that was a thing. Really extreme religious cult. And like she would, like it's a book, like I remember we'd have like history books that might have illustrations in it, and it was very common for, you know, a lot of garb, we'll say, for you know, women back in the day to show cleavage, right? And my mother would go through all these, anything that would ever show cleavage in anything, right? If it was like a history book or whatever, and she would take Sharpie and cover up the cleavage. And then like we couldn't watch like Batman, that was too violent, right? Like really extreme stuff here. And whatever, I'm pretty sure that like whatever SWAT Cat's cartoon was, we were not allowed to watch. Like, my mom was really extreme. Now, thankfully, she got out of that cult, and like, in a very logical way too. She started really applying logic to the whole situation, and yeah, she's much smarter now and much better. And you know, she regrets all that nonsense and whatnot. And now it's funny. She's like. She like anime was like super banned and all that, but now she loves anime, right? Like her favorite anime is Black Lagoon, and like that is, if anyone's ever seen that anime, that is not it's not a kid-friendly anime, I'll put it that way, right? So yeah, she's very different now, but yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, I couldn't watch anything really. And I got out of that even sooner. I got out of that when I was like 15. I like got the fuck out of Dodge, so but yeah, that was an experience. So from what I can tell of my mother, is she was just born a very logical person and kind of stuff, but through like she didn't really develop that part of her brain in her younger years and that kind of stuff, and she was never really like encouraged to pursue that. And then just through various life events and stuff, she just got caught up in like this religious cult, and she just drank the Kool-Aid really hard. But she kind of always had this logical part of her brain trying to like bust out and get her to, you know, examine these things more logically. But you know, she had kids and all these things, so she was kind of busy with that kind of stuff. But eventually, she just her brain kind of just busted out and started applying logic to everything, and yeah, she got out of it and stopped being a dum-dum. So yeah, I really, it's hard for people to change. It really is. A lot of people, it's hard for them to drastically change values and things. A lot of people just get comfortable and stick with what they know, especially with what they're raised in and that kind of stuff. But yeah, my mother is actually the person that I've seen that has changed the most out of any person I've ever met in my life. It is crazy how much she changed and like improved as a person. But yeah, weird childhood that I had there. Hey, Saber had character development until FGO happened, and maybe Fate Hollow. That wasn't great. I don't even like Artoria, but my big beef I've always had with Artoria, outside of just like some of her ridiculous faults in plot armor and stuff, but is like, it's because Fates Tonight was written first. Oh my god, the game crashed again, dude. But it's kind of annoying that she has the same character arc kind of twice in Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. It's like things happen in Fate Stay Night that should have woken her the fuck up, and then she just doesn't. And then so like canonically what it looks like is like she goes into denial after Fate Zero and just doubles down on her stupidity. And then what finally gets her to stop doubling down, and people do that, to be fair, people do that. But what makes her actually accept, you know, reality is fucking Shiro. And I don't think Shiro says or does anything that would actually do that if the other stuff didn't. And yeah, I know Fate Stay Night happens literally just like moments after Fate Zero for her, right? I know that. And again, I actually buy that, you know, a lot of times it takes people time to process things and whatnot. And so I buy that, like, immediately after Fate Zero, she's not necessarily going to instantly give up on her dream, right? I believe that. And sometimes when people do feel threatened, when their ideas and things feel threatened, I buy that she might double down on them for a little bit. What I don't buy that is after, because it's not like Fate Stay Night happens in a, it's like a couple weeks or some shit, right? It's like there's plenty of like downtime there, like 30 days or something. I kind of forget. But anyway, so she has a lot of time of not fighting and whatnot, and that what ultimately, it's not like she thinks about, you know, Fate Zero again and whatnot. And by the way, Natsu knew about Fate Zero back then. Now, you know, his version of Fate Zero is a little different. And they even said that like Fate Zero is like an alternate timeline, and that explains some of the slight inconsistencies. That's not with Saber, that's actually with like other stuff. But you know, Fate Zero basically happens in Fate Tonight's timeline. It's almost exactly the same. There's just very minor differences. But anyway, it's not like so Natsu knows about all that stuff. You know, he knows about, you know, Kiritsugu, and you know he already had that stuff planned out. But it's not like Saber sits down and reflects and then comes to a realization. It's literally Shiro, right? Shiro is the reason she stops being an idiot. But Shiro never says or does anything that should have that effect on her, like at all. Like if all this other stuff ain't doing it, why the fuck is this idiot, right? Like I just don't buy it. I really just don't. I don't. It's a little silly, and it's made more silly when you really flush out the past like that. Right, when it was just Fate Stay Night, you can just kind of chuck it up to, you know, love conquers all bullshit. And Natsu's literally said that, by the way. He literally said that about Gilgamesh. Like, this is, seriously, in one of the character material books, Natsu says this, where it's like, yeah, so in Fate Stay Night, Gilgamesh wasn't allowed to, like, show his true might because it's a love conquers all story. So, you know, Gilgamesh can't win. He's fucking said that, right? I am not putting words in his mouth. He said that. And then he says, but in Fate Zero, it's not a love conquers all story. So it is okay for Gilgamesh to, like, you know, show his more, you know, powerful abilities and stuff. Because the character material book or the interview or whatever it was actually talking about Fate Zero, not Fate Stay Night. And it was kind of addressing why Gilgamesh is stronger in Fate Zero than he is in Fate Stay Night, which some anime viewers don't realize, but actually is a thing. And Natsu was basically like, yeah, and you know, Fate Stay Night, it's, you know, love conquered our story, so we just can't have Gilgamesh doing that. But in Fate Zero, he gets to really show what he's made of, right? And yeah, I wish more people read that, because it kind of articulates what I'm talking about with Natsu putting characters first and logic and story, I wouldn't even say second, more like fifth or sixth. But yeah, I don't think a lot of people have actually seen that bit, and it's kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, that whole bit with Shiro and Saber, I just don't, you know, I don't really buy it, and it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of daft. But yeah, even though Artoria is not my cup of tea, though, I don't think she's that bad of a character, though. And I've always said this. A lot of the conversations, like between her and Kojiro, and her and you know, Alexander the Great, and guiltiness. There are always interesting conversations and stuff, right? She's a really interesting character for other characters to play off of. So I've really never minded her, even though I don't like her, right? It's not like I'm not like, oh man, I got a level 100 Artoria and F go, right? Like that's not a priority here.
オルテナウス疑似リンク開始いい感じ新名凍結展開これは多くの後多くの願いを受けた幻想
I don't agree with that. I don't think Garden of Avalon really portrays it that way. And Fates Tonight certainly doesn't portray it that way. I think Garden of Avalon basically tries to make it a lot more sympathetic. Very much so. Like, 'cause, like, honestly, Fates Stay Night pretty much paints her as a fuck up, right? Like, really, Fates Stay Night, the visual novel, not like the anime and stuff, but the Fates Stay Night, the visual novel, completely paints Artoria as a complete fuck up and messing a lot up. And then also, still though, not like overly blaming herself as well at the same time. Where Garden of Avalon, she's still a fuck up, and you know things still went wrong, and there were still decisions that were bad, but it's a lot more sympathetic, right? Is how they try to frame it, and they also just show some of the faults of other people involved. Because even though Artoria obviously made some mistakes, especially with like Guinevere and Mordred, a lot of other people made mistakes too, and that's how it's supposed to be in the legends and stuff. But yeah, I don't think Garden of Avalon ever framed it like Artoria did nothing wrong. They just make it more sympathetic. I think, and here's the thing, like I think the most a story has ever tried to make it seem like Artoria did nothing wrong is actually Fate Strange Fake, but that's not really Fate Strange Fake saying Artoria did nothing wrong. It's Richard the Lionheart specifically saying she did nothing wrong. But of course he says that. He's Richard the Lionheart. He's a giant Arthurian legend fanboy. Like that's what his character is. But like I don't know how anyone can look at that and think that like they're trying to say Artoria never did anything wrong, because I mean Face the Night is pretty clear about it, and it's just the story. Like she doesn't understand people very well at the time, right? She doesn't understand emotions very time. So like that bit with Mordred, right? When Mordred comes to her and is like, "You're my dad," she doesn't respond to that very well, and because in Artoria's head, she actually thinks this is stupid, but this is actually what she thinks. She thinks telling Mordred, fuck off, essentially, because in her mind, she's not telling Mordred to fuck off, right? Basically ignoring her and all that. To her, that's just saying, I don't see you as a worthy heir, and because Mordred's a good knight, Mordred's going to continue to be a good knight. That's what Artoria thinks, right? She is so oblivious to how humans feel and think that she doesn't realize that obviously Mordred wants, a parental figure, and this is going to be like, crushing if I, ignore Mordred and all that. She doesn't think of any of that kind of stuff, right? She just thinks, oh yeah, Mordred's a good knight. Mordred will just, if I say you're not, going to be heir and all that, she'll just keep on being a good knight and it'll be fine. That's what Artoria thinks. That's literally what Artoria thinks. She does not have any concept of how her actions are going to actually be interpreted by a normal, person. Although I guess Mordred's not a normal person either, but that's a whole other thing. Same for a lot of this stuff with like Guinevere and whatnot. She just doesn't realize how people are actually going to respond to her actions because she doesn't understand people. And they've never backpedaled on that. They've always reaffirmed that in like Garden of Avalon and everything else. Now what they have done is very much try to make it seem like it's very sympathetic and it's not her fault that she was that way and blah 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 blah, which I mean some of that's true, some of it is Merlin's fault and that kind of thing, but I mean you got to be responsible for your own actions, especially at that age. But yeah, I don't think they've ever backpedaled on that. It's just they have fleshed out how some of the other characters have fucked up as well. And like with Tristan mostly like kind of just regrets how he handled it. I don't remember Tristan ever saying he was wrong about Artoria. I don't think he's ever said that. He, as far as I remember, they kind of had Tristan go with the, I was right, but I should not have behaved that way, and I shouldn't have stormed out and abandoned Camelot and that kind of stuff. Because yeah, no, he was correct. Artoria does not understand people. At least back then she didn't. And that is the whole, like, I don't, do people not read the visual novel, right? Because that is what Fate Stay Night is about, is that she doesn't fucking understand people, and then by the end of it, she kind of does, right? That's the point, right? That's like the character arc, right? Is that she doesn't understand people, and she starts to, like, learn how to understand people and become a normal fucking human being, right? That's, like, actually the story, right? But yeah, Tristan, like, was correct, but he regretted how he handled it, right? That's not absolving Artoria of her problems here, right? You know, no one reads fucking anything. I will say, though, every anime ever, though, has definitely tried to whitewash Artoria and make it seem like she's perfect and does no wrong, and she's not to blame in any way for Camelot and all this stuff. And that's silly, right? That's just silly. And, like, yes, Camelot was gonna fall eventually no matter what. Right? Like, no kingdom lasts forever. That's the fact, right? And, like, with the Age of Mystery coming to an end and all that, Camelot was not gonna last forever. But there's no world with, like, how Artoria... It's funny, because I see some people, they point to them saying that Camelot was gonna fall eventually anyway, that the Artoria did no wrong. But they never actually address the moment-to-moment actions. How is, like, how Artoria handled Mordred not bad? Right? Like, how was that actually good leadership? Right? Like, no one ever addresses that. They just like to say, oh no, it's not Artoria's fault, and Camelot would have fell anyway. She was just trying to hold the pieces together. But then they don't actually address her individual decisions, right? Yeah, and like, Sir Kay's ending is not in any way absolving Artoria of her faults. And like, Sir Kay's ending, though, is actually, Sir Kay's Garden of Avalon is my favorite one, and it's actually pretty depressing, because Sir Kay is intelligent enough, and he, like, grew up with Artoria. So he knows, like, what she's doing better than she does, because she's, like, in denial, right? Because Artoria's, like, a pretty much, she's not this stoic, perfect king. She's not, but she's trying to embody it, but she isn't, right? And Sir Kay knows that. He knows she's not a perfect king. He knows that she's not actually super stoic and stuff, right? She's basically, you know, Artoria Lily, right? That's basically what she's supposed to be. Like, that's her natural personality, and he knows that. Right? So he's sitting here watching Artoria crash and burn, trying to save a kingdom that's eventually going to crash and burn anyway, and die for it. And essentially, for no reason, right? Like, so she's trying to embody this, like, overly idealistic king that doesn't actually exist, and it also doesn't even help, and then she's going to die for it, right? And he knows that, and that's why at the end of it, he basically just says, what was this for, right? What the fuck was, like, what did you do this for, right? It was a complete waste, right? Yeah, Sir Kay is the best fucking knight, because he has, like, the best perspective. He knows Artoria better than anyone. Like, he knows her just as well as Merlin, but he's not a psychopath like Merlin. But then he still holds her, like, accountable. He has so much, like, he has more, like, reason to care about Artoria than anyone else. And a lot of people don't realize that, but, you know, he's her brother, so of course he does. But he has more reason to, like, care about her than anyone else, but he also doesn't let that get in his way of, you know, what's actually right? Like, in Lost, or in Camelot, the Singularity, right? Obviously, he has more bias to side with Artoria than anybody, but he doesn't, because he doesn't agree with Artoria, right? And it's the same thing at the end of Camelot. He doesn't agree with what she's doing. He doesn't agree, and he, you know, wishes she never did all this nonsense to begin with. And he just leaves, right? He's not going to stand by Artoria for such a senseless, you know, thing. And so he just leaves. So yeah, I always like Sir Kay because he's not an idiot. He does care about Artoria, but he's also not, you know, blind to, you know, he has integrity, right? That's what I'm getting. He's got integrity. So yeah, Sir Kay's the fucking best, but yeah, Gareth, that's a different one. But yeah, some people they're just Artoria fans, and they're just like they're like blind to her faults, which is really weird because, like, I think faults are a really important part about a character, right? Now, a character may have faults in a way that you're going to find unacceptable or unrelatable or whatever and not like them, and that's totally fine. But, like, you know, it's like delusional to say Mordred has no faults, right? I like Mordred a lot, and Mordred certainly isn't to blame for everything, but, like, I don't think anyone in the right mind would say Mordred is, you know, faultless, right? Like, that's just silly. But people do that for Artoria all the time, right? And people try to, it's because it's their waifu, and they just want Artoria to be this perfect angel. And a lot of people that like Artoria hate Fate Stay Night because it shows Artoria in like a bad light, but they're not showing her, like nothing they say in Fate Zero is wrong, right? That's the thing. It's not like anything they show in Fate Zero about her past or anything like that is incorrect. It's accurate, right? They just don't like, you know, a viewpoint that sees it more negatively, right? Which it's just silly, right? That's absolutely silly. Like fucking denial here. But yeah, like I mean, Mordred as a character I like a lot, but yeah, plenty of faults there, and it's actually part of why I like the character. I think Mordred would suck if they were just super perfect, you know, nothing to learn from, etc., etc. Well, really, the whitewashed version of Artoria doesn't exist. It's mainly like in the fan fiction, right? Like the series is really never absolved her of her mistakes and that kind of stuff. Again, they made it more sympathetic, and they do that all the time. Nasu is really big on like the sympathetic heroine thing. Like that's pretty. I mean, between Morgan, Sakura, and Saber, do we see a theme here? And Fujino, I guess, to an extent. Right, there's a real, by the way, Fujino's the best one out of all of those. It's not even close. And it's kind of funny because she's the first one, and she's the only one that's written, like, really well, in my opinion. But, I think some of that's because she was an antagonist. But, yeah, Nasu does that a lot. Yeah, that's a big thing, though, with Mordred. That's kind of the point of the character, is she's immature, especially in that part of Camelot. Is she's immature, she's inexperienced, she has a really hard time even, because this is a thing, but it's not really in the anime, but this is very clear in the books and stuff. A big issue Mordred has is she's so immature, she doesn't she can't control her own emotions, and she doesn't understand like why she's feeling the way that she is, and people are absolutely like that. It's easy to forget that, but when you're young, that absolutely can be a thing, where if you're feeling jealous or mad or whatever, you don't understand why, and you interpret where it's coming from. And Mordred does that. Mordred thinks that the reason she's upset is because she's denied the throne, but she's actually upset because Artoria's not, you know, being a parent, right? And she realizes that later, but, you know, at the time, you know, she has the whole tantrum about the throne thing, and, you know, kind of a problem. And that's like the whole shtick with Mordred is, she is justified in being mad, right? She's basically a parentless brat, and then all of her parents are terrible and won't help, and you know, she's angry, and that's reasonable. But then her reaction is disproportionate, right? She basically throws the entire kingdom into fire because Daddy doesn't love me, right? And like, yeah, it's a legitimately, you know, it's easy to say, you know, belittle it like that, like Daddy doesn't love me, but it's a legitimate reason for turmoil, right? When your parents suck and you don't have it, you know, any parental figures. That is a legitimate reason to be miserable, but it's not a good reason to, you know, blow up a country, right? Like maybe punch a pillow, maybe yell at somebody, you know, that's understandable, but, you know, blowing up a country, I don't know about that one, right? That's not so good. Little far there. And yeah, again, that's kind of the point, right? Morgan is the worst parent in that, like, Artoria bad, Morgan so much worse. Morgan basically does everything Artoria does, but then actively try to put Morgan on a path of destruction for Camelot, right? Morgan is the worst fucking thing in that whole plot line. She's, and that's because her goal, though, is to, you know, she wants to undo Arthur at all costs, right? That's the point. But yeah, Morgan is the worst of the two parents, no question there. Not that Artoria is a good one, obviously, but the thing is, being clueless is not an excuse when you're of that age and such. I see people say that all the time about Artoria, that they white, like, imagine actually whitewashing that bad of parenting because they didn't know any better. You would never say that in real life, and you would never say that about your own parent if they treated you very poorly, right? Like if your parent abused you, And you say, oh, well, they didn't know any better. And even if it's true that they didn't know any better, that's no excuse, because they're the parent. They are the one that's responsible to know better. There really is a different standard for a parent and a child. And what I see happen a lot with Fate, and other circumstances too, which I think is really fucked up, like, you do not hold children and the parent to the same standard. That is nonsense. For a very large number of reasons, because the parent brought the child into the world and the parent is older, right? The responsibility does lie on the parent. Now, that doesn't resolve children of all responsibility, absolutely not. But parents have a very high responsibility. And again, Artoria is much older, right? So that's a fairly relevant thing there, and has had plenty of opportunities. Like, Artoria lives a very experience-rich life in Fate, and then also if you want to take Arthurian Legend. Now, Arthurian Legend's really different because Mordred's all over the map. Sometimes Mordred's not even related to King Arthur, so that's completely different. But both in real Legend and in Fate, Arthur/Artoria lives a very experience-rich life and is surrounded by a lot of different people and has every opportunity to gain experience and become a wise person, and she just doesn't. That's her own fault. Now, obviously, I know Artoria didn't consent, I get that, but I really stand by this, and this is where integrity comes into play, because different people are going to have different opinions on this. But as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if you consented or not. If it's your child, you do bear responsibility, right? So, like, example, if I had a child against my will, I'm obviously not going to be happy with the other person in that scenario, but I am still going to do everything I can for that child, because it's not the child's fault. The child does not have any responsibility in that whole scenario, right? So I do not, because if a child came to me and told me, because let's say I didn't know I had a kid, and a child comes to me and, because the thing is, Artoria even says this. Artoria even admits that she believes Mordred. She doesn't think Mordred's lying. She believes what Mordred is telling her about Mordred being her kin. She's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. And with like what Mordred looks like and everything, she's like, yeah, no, that's probably true. But yeah, fuck off anyway. But so yeah, if someone comes to me and I find out they were a child and I didn't consent and all that, I'm still going to take care of the child and try my best to be a good father figure and all that. Because that's the responsible thing to do. That's the wise thing to do. That's the moral thing to do. And Artoria is in a position where she should know better, 1000%, right? So that's not a good look, right? Just because she wasn't willing to the birth, I'll put it that way, and you know, didn't know at the time that once Mordred, she's excused, Artoria's excused of all responsibility up until Mordred told her that she was her kin, and Artoria believed her, right? Then that's completely different. This is why we have Child Protective Services, indeed. But yeah, I see people argue this all the time, that people shouldn't be responsible for children that they weren't, you know, consenting to. But I don't agree to that. Maybe not. I don't know about legally. I don't know what the law should be, because that's different. But as an individual, right? As what I think is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do, if they're your child, you do your best to take care of them and help them through life and all that kind of stuff, especially when they're, you know, young. And because yeah, if a kid came to me and they were my kin, it doesn't matter if I was willingly involved or not. I'm going to. That's the right thing to do, right? Now again, just because I think it's the right thing to do doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be the law. I really don't know about that, but you know, I don't let someone off the hook just because of that, right? If I think the right thing to do is be a good father figure or mother figure or what have you, that's the thing you should do, and I hold everyone accountable to that, myself included. See, Artoria does not get off the hook there. And again, because Artoria is not like, she's rich, she's had a well-experienced life, she's been surrounded by many wise people, she's had loads of experience and all this stuff, and she has just failed to develop the skills to be able to understand people and that kind of stuff. And, you know, that's her fault, right? So her failing to see the problems in that situation and failing to you know, be a father figure to Mordred and everything, that's completely on her. I mean, who the fuck else is going to take the responsibility here, right? Yeah, I see no reason to absolve someone of that kind of responsibility. And also, what I really don't like about Artoria, and maybe they'll change this, but she never even regrets it, right? That's like a big thing. It's like as Artoria goes through Fates Stay Night, and they knew about Mordred and Fates Stay Night, by the way. They had concept art and all that kind of stuff. Artoria never regrets it and never like extends an olive branch there and never takes any responsibility, right? It'd be one thing if Artoria was like racked with guilt after the fact, and then especially as she started to realize, you know, humans better. She felt bad about it, and it was like, oh fuck, you know, I probably should have been a father figure there. That wasn't a good move. She never does that ever. Like quite the opposite, actually. So yeah, it's not great. Like she recognized, if you look at all of the stuff with Artoria, you know, after the fact, after Fates Stay Night, she never regrets it, and she continues to dislike Mordred, right? She continues to ignore her and that kind of thing. Now, they don't have much canonical interaction after that. It's kind of just implied, like in FGO and that kind of thing. But there's really never been it's half of it's joking, right? Because, you know, Nasu. But they only ever implied that she still doesn't give a flying fuck about Mordred after the fact, so... It's one thing if you're like raped and immediately have to take care of the kid. Even then, though, I'm sorry, I don't have sympathy for people in this kind of stuff. It's like there are things that humans are responsible for, and there are things that we need to gain wisdom in a certain amount of time. Once you're an adult, you need to have yourself put together well enough that you're not gonna crumble at the first sign of any kind of stress. So if you do need to take care of an innocent life, you're capable of doing it. I absolutely believe that, and I hold myself to that standard, right? If you fall to pieces at any trauma, and then you allow an innocent life to die or be kidnapped or murdered or what, you suck. That's absolutely how I feel. Now, there might be a few exceptions, like if someone's you know, exceptionally young when they become a mother or a father, or something like that, or if they're mentally handicapped, right? Of course, there's always exceptions, but exceptions prove the rule. I do not have sympathy for people that think their own personal trauma is an excuse to completely fuck over someone else. I think that is just terrible. And I think it's actually the opposite. Like, the hardships I've gone through in my life have bettered me to try to not push those hardships on other people. Right? Just because I've gone through something bad, that's no excuse to just screw over, you know, everyone around me and, you know, not have responsibility. You need to be responsible as an adult to have yourself put together enough that, because life is going to throw shit at you, right? Even more so in the olden days, you know, in the modern era where our lives are much cushier than they used to be. But life still throws shit at you. That is what life is, right? Human condition is enduring hardship. You are going to have hardship coming, and if you don't gain the wisdom to realize that by the time you're an adult, that's on you. And if you don't prepare, that's on you, right? You need to prepare yourself so you are able to overcome adversity, because it is going to be thrown your way at some point or another, and you need to be able to deal with it as best you can. Now, of course, you're granted wiggle room here, and you're granted, you know, time to grieve and time to process. Of course, right? I'm not expecting people to just, you know, stiff upper lip and just get over, you know, going through traumatic experiences. Of course not, right? But you have got to be responsible. Just because something bad happens to you in your life does not relieve you of responsibility. All human life is responsibility, right? It's just a fact, right? Reality doesn't give a shit. Trees aren't going to grow out of the ground and relieve you of your responsibility, right? That's just not going to happen, right? And I think it's a problem in the modern era is we don't raise people to be accountable for their own actions and to be responsible adults and any of that. We don't do that anymore, and I think that's a real problem because everyone is just constantly trying to be crybabies and act like they shouldn't be accountable for anything because I have trauma. It's just silly. Like that's actually silly. And in this case, like with Artoria, you know, it was later, right? It wasn't like way later, but I mean, it was like 5 years later or whatever. And Artoria didn't even remember it, I don't think. So it's not like Artoria is sitting here with trauma. And again, she's a fucking adult. Seriously, I have no sympathy. If someone goes through trauma and that trauma makes them a bad caregiver for their kid, and they let their kid starve to death, or they throw the kid off a cliff, or they just neglect the kid or whatever, and they give trauma to the kid, fuck them. They suck. Your trauma does not alleviate you of your responsibility you know, to your kids. Like, Jesus Christ, no. And I honestly, I think that's scary that people think that it does. I don't think that is not a good look, in my opinion. Like, because again, life is going to have hardship in it, and I mean, who's gonna overcome that hardship for you? The kid, or you, the fucking adult, right? Like, of course, you, the adult, are gonna be the one that has to do that. Like, I see that all the time, though, in fiction, where people think trauma excuses absolutely atrocious behavior. Now, like, sure, it gives, like, trauma might excuse you having a, like you behave in a, your attitude, right, maybe is kind of shitty, right? Like, maybe you've got, like, you got a teenager, like, let's say I'm a teacher, right? And I got, like, a teenager maybe coming up on the adult years, and he's got a horrible home life, his parents beat him and stuff, and so he's got, like, a bad outer attitude. I'll forgive that. I'm not gonna forgive him if he goes and murders somebody, or if he goes and you know, steals or something like that. And I don't forgive that. You know, I'll forgive that maybe he swears or you know, is rude or whatever. Sure, I'll forgive that from circumstances. But there are, you know, like child neglect. Like if that guy goes out and has a kid and then he neglects the kid, fuck that guy, right? He should absolutely know better, right? 100%. Mordred is not an adult. Mordred is like 5. For God's sakes. Like, she's like, she has accelerated aging, but it doesn't accelerate her, maturity. She's, like, I'm trying to think how many years go by. I think it's like 5 or 8, yeah, maybe 8, that might be something like that. I don't remember where the fuck. I don't really get into the details. I suspect that her brain does accelerate somewhat, and its, maturity, I don't see why it wouldn't, but the thing is, she still only has 8 years of life experience. A huge part of maturity is not just your brain developing through childhood, it's acquiring experience through life and having enough opportunities in life to put yourself together, right? She's been alive for 8 years. Who the fuck is alive for 8 years with any kind of brain and going to get anywhere? Also, a few of those years, even if her brain does develop quicker, are still going to be a few years of when she's, you know, very much a child brain. And then she spent like 6 of those years with Morgan, right? So, you know, she has very little life experience. You know, she's very, very young, and she has fuck all life experience. And she's not absolved of all consequences, right? She was mistaken for... It was one thing for her to lash out. It was like, you know, maybe quitting the Knights, maybe even trying to kill Artoria. That might be a little far, but at least, you know, lashing out against Artoria specifically is one thing, but she fucks up the entire country. This is not a rational, that is a disproportionate reaction to the circumstances, absolutely. But the nice thing about Mordred's character arc is Mordred shows regret. That's why I like Mordred as a character and I don't like Artoria. Mordred has less responsibility than Artoria does, but still has responsibility. And then she makes a mistake and is definitely a villain, but then shows regret and then moves to improve as a every story with Mordred, all of them, FGO, Fate APOC, every story they've done with Mordred, maybe with Camelot is an exception, but that's like a very warped version of Mordred. All Mordred's character is about is trying to improve as a character and like try to become a better person. Every single story with her, that's a core part of Mordred's characterization. And especially in APOC, is very much her trying to become better. And that's why, like, at the end of it, her master says at the end of it that she now would be a really good king. Because she has learned and has experience and et cetera, and is a much better person, right? Artoria never does that, right? Artoria just basically gets over trauma, her own trauma, and then never regrets any of the mistakes she ever made, right? Not great, right? And never mind the whole trying to execute Guinevere thing and, screwing over Mordred. Fuck all that. Let's go and just have fun times with Shiro, right? It's not a good look. Oh yeah, trauma, it may not be a good excuse for things, but it is definitely a reason, if we like it or not. That is absolutely true. And if you're writing a character, it oftentimes can be the reason someone falls off the path, if you will. A lot of people do get fucked up because of trauma and don't take the responsibility they need to deal with it, and they do make grave mistakes and hurt the people around them or become very evil or whatever it is. Absolutely. But I see a lot of people using that as an excuse, though, and like it's actually just weird to me. I'll see like a movie or an anime or a book or a piece of history in real life or whatever, and people will, you know, whitewash actions of someone because they have trauma, and I'm like, no. Like, you do, and the thing is, you can absolutely learn from trauma, right? That's actually what you're supposed to do with it, right? You're supposed to learn from trauma and better yourself. Right, that's. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Like, what else are you gonna do? Are you gonna let it beat you? That doesn't do you any good. But yeah, I don't like people trying to use trauma as, especially for avoiding responsibility with children, right? Because they cannot do, like, children are helpless, right? There are different species, right, on the world, and some animals, their young become very capable and responsible and put together very quickly. Humans are objectively not one of those creatures, right? We don't do that. Our young are very defenseless. Like, they're some of the most defenseless young on the planet. Their brains are some of the least. I mean, they are so fucking helpless, right? And just a responsibility as a goddamn human being is to. I like how we're just. That was so unlucky what just happened there. Because she has to NP twice, and like that just screwed her over so fucking hard on doing that. Well, I can at least do this. Oh fuck, I forgot that was the battery. I thought it was on the other skill. God damn it. Well, that was a boo-boo. You gotta NP twice. Yeah, so that's a lot of people that analyze the people that go through trauma that have talked about this, though. Like when you had soldiers coming back from Vietnam, and they had gone through some of the worst experiences a human is going to go through. The ones that came back to like a family, like a wife and kids and shit like that, generally recovered and did really well. The ones that came back to nothing and did not have any kind of support did very poorly. Right? So that's like a really known thing that you need support sometimes. And it depends on like what you're dealing with and like what kind of person you are. Everyone has different brain makeups and stuff. But that's a very common thing, though. If you have no support structure, it's much harder to overcome extreme trauma. And that's another thing. Artoria actually has so much support available to her, right? And half the time she's like refuses to take advantage of it because she's a fucking idiot. But like she has Herc, right? She has family. She has loads of people around. She has Bedivere, for God's sake. Mordred has literally nothing, right? Mordred is the child in the situation who has almost no life experience and has absolutely nothing, right? She has no one. And then Artoria has a lot, and then Artoria is like too stupid to use any of it. And again, that's kind of like why I like Sir K's ending, because it's just, he's just shaking his head at, the stupidity of all this, because, Artoria's just screwing herself over and everyone else. And, she's trying to be the stoic, perfect king that doesn't even exist. I've never watched Naruto, so yeah, I don't got anything with that. Yeah, I do feel like it's very common these days for people to try to justify bad behavior with like whatever they can and try to avoid responsibility as much as possible. And I think that's, and again, like, how do I put this? So like this, like someone brought up Joker, right? So I think the point of Joker's character is done differently by different writers, but oftentimes a common theme is like, are their experiences so bad that it would break anyone, right? And I think the answer is probably yes. Now, those experiences probably change from person to person. What someone's limit is going to vary from person to person. But there probably is an, like, ultimate bad series of events, like never having good parents in your life, experiencing a bad day every day, being tortured every day, just everything that could possibly be bad always happens, right? You're born with deformities, just everything. Everything is bad, right? So there is a point where no human could possibly overcome you know, how bad like their circumstances are, and that person is probably going to go off the rails. And here's the thing, if someone experiences like a trauma so bad, it's at that point you can justify why they went off the rails, but you still don't like condone it. You still don't act like it's a good thing. You still try to prevent it. You still stop them. You still like, you don't allow them to go murder people just because they had the worst experience a human can have. And what I don't like though is when people hear that, they try to act like what they've gone through is that unsurmountable trauma, and it probably isn't, right? Like, I think a lot of people, although it is possible for someone to go through something so horrible, or a series of events, like multiple things that are so horrible that no one could have withstood it, almost no one is going to go through that, right? Like, you might go through something really fucked up, but you can still get through it. And people will use that as an excuse to be like, well, my trauma was so bad that I should be given this, you know, pass. And that's why you don't really give anyone a pass. Even the person that went through the worst trauma possible, you still stop them. You don't let Joker go murder people, right? That's like the thing. You don't do that. Okay, I think we're at the actual boss fight here. Yeah, Artoria is just an interesting point because I just see a lot of Artoria fans out there that are just, she's their waifu and they try to do mental gymnastics to justify every little action she does. And a staple of that is they don't like Fate Zero. I always kind of identify these people so easily because they always don't like Fate Zero, and then they always try to act like Artoria is perfect. It's so funny. Like, it happens every time. Now, I absolutely know Artoria fans that don't like it. I actually say most Artoria fans accept that she had made some huge mistakes, and plenty of them like Fate Zero and whatnot. But that's like a trademark of people that are like on raw Artoria copium, is they think Fate Zero is bad because it shows Artoria in a bad light, and then it's very silly. Yeah, it's funny, Artoria really is an Ooga Booga idiot, even outside of like this stuff. Like, the Ryoto Temple bit is the example I always give. Rin tells her, and for whatever reason, Saber actually respects Rin's opinion, but I don't know why she should. Rin's a fucking idiot, but boy, now that I think about it, Artoria is really a bad judge of character, but anyway. So Rin tells Artoria, do not go to Ryoto Temple, it is blatantly a trap. Also, you haven't healed fully, and Shiro's useless right now, right? Shiro tells her, do not go to Ryoto Temple, it's a bad idea, it's obviously a trap, etc., right? Everyone is telling her, don't go to Ryoto Temple. Now, even if she disagrees with them and thinks it's a good idea to go to Ryoto Temple, you should still talk to your this is very important, right? Even if she thinks the right decision is going to Ryoto Temple, she should at least tell Rin and Shiro, I'm going to Ryoto Temple anyway. And that way they'll probably at least back you up or be able to use like a command spell to, you know, teleport you out or whatever if it gets bad and that kind of thing. She doesn't do that. She waits until they're asleep and she sneaks out and she goes to Ryoto Temple on her own. And guess what happens? It's a trap and she gets her ass kicked. And the only reason she doesn't die is because of plot armor. And guess what? If she didn't have that plot armor and she died there, that would almost guarantee that Rin and Shiro would then follow suit and die. Because now, you know, one of their best assets is gone, right? So she is a fucking idiot, right? Like, I mean, she's just an Ooga Booga and she doesn't even get smart about it. She's not like, okay, I can deal this by myself, right? I don't need these idiots. I'm gonna go to Ryoto Temple on my own. Now let me stake it out, you know, and try to figure out like what's going on. Maybe try to detect where the bounded field is. Maybe I'll spot the master, right? And if she had done that, she actually would have spotted, you know, Kojiro most likely. She might have noticed the bounded field and all that. You know, she might have been able to do that, right? And then she might have even realized, oh shit, now maybe I shouldn't do this, right? But no, she doesn't do that. She just runs right on in, just bull rush, prana burst, let's go, right? And then, yeah, she gets her ass kicked. And it's like, okay, yep, should've listened to Rin of all people. Yeah, Rin's got her own clown behavior. I like Rin telling Shiro that it's a stupid idea to be running around in broad daylight, especially without your servant, right? Because someone else could identify that you're a master and then kill you, and you don't have your servant with you, right? And then she does that exact same thing. And then she's like, she's literally physically attacking Shiro because she's mad at Shiro for doing this stupid thing while doing said stupid thing herself. And without plot armor, she would have died for it because Ryder notices the thing that Rin was talking about and throws a chain at Rin's face, and Rin would have been completely incapable of stopping said chain, and the only reason, ironically, the only reason Rin does not die there is because Shiro gets in the way, right? Which is funny because she was attacking Shiro and then Shiro saves her life, but you know, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, Rin would have literally just died there if it wasn't for Shiro. You know, it's really surprising that Shiro would, like, and from her point of view, why would Shiro save her when she's actively attacking Shiro, right? And then she gets ganked, and the only reason she doesn't die is because her enemy saves her, right? It's not a good look. Really not a good look. A lot of stupid heroines in Fate Stay Night, by the way. Although also Shiro is fucking stupid as well. He died to bees, by the way. That was a really good bad ending, but. But, oh my god, I don't remember why. I saw someone on Reddit the other day saying, like, I don't remember what they were talking about. I think they were talking about Fate Strange Fake, and someone had basically said, you know, generally speaking, in most timelines, Shiro is very easy to kill. And this guy was like, no, he's not. And he's like springing up, like, you know, how badass Shiro is and blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, motherfucker, and this is what the pretty much said, he dies in so many bad endings, and those are canonical. He lives in almost none of the endings. He dies constantly, and when he does die, it's miracle luck. And he gets helped by, like, Rin giving him mana and all these other things. It's a complete miracle, right? And those are just the bad endings that we see, right? And Nasu's talked about this. There's many more timelines in Fate Stay Night we never see, right? And just out of the ones we see, Shiro dies almost all. He dies to Gilgamesh a bunch of times. He dies to Medea a bunch of times. Dies to Hercules a bunch of times. He dies to fucking, you know, wasps and out with Zokin at one time, right? Like, he's an idiot, man. And he is very easy to kill. He needs miracle RNG to happen for him actually to survive anything, which is what happens in the few times that he does live. But almost every timeline ever, Shiro fucking dies. But yeah, I thought that was funny. People acting like Shiro is like tanky. It's like absolutely not. Like he's only tanky in like 3 routes, and even in some of those routes he dies anyway. But yeah, a lot of people just forget the bad endings are actually canonical, and it just shows how lucky he's getting in the other routes. Yeah, Shiro's an idiot. Rin's an idiot. Saber's an idiot, and even Sakura's an idiot. Now she's actually really fucking stupid. Yeah, they're all dumb. All the protagonists in Fate Stay Night are fucking idiots. I don't see a lot of people defending Shiro though. I mean, I don't know about that. It's kind of mixed. Okay, you know what? Let's see how Hercules does in this fight. I don't think he can do this because this fight is like a huge damage check. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But I feel like this is the kind of fight that may not be good for Hercules, but we'll see. Like, there are people that unironically try to act like Shiro has no plot armor in Fate Stay Night. But chat, am I the only one? Am I crazy? Am I, like, maybe I just don't see enough people, I don't know, I'm exposed to a lot of the Fate community, but in my experience, almost any time, now, I wouldn't say every time, right? There's always exceptions, and there's also lots of people out there you don't just talk to, but when there are fans of Fate, right? So they're not just someone that watched a anime and didn't like that one anime, but when they are Fate fans, but the one Fate story they don't like is Fate Zero. In my experience, they are pretty much always Artoria fans. And they're that kind of Artoria fan that wants to whitewash her and that kind of thing, right? Like, I'm sure some people have watched Fate Zero and they don't really like it, and they don't like Fate in general. I've certainly seen that, where people just don't like Fate period. But in my experience, and I've been exposed to a lot of the Fate community through the Reddits, the Discords, and all that. I have seen more conversations about this kind of stuff than I would care to. And I've seen the YouTube comments on the videos for like the story beats and all that kind of stuff. And pretty much every time the one Fate story they don't like is Fate Zero, they are just always an Artoria fan. And again, there's a few exceptions to that, but exceptions prove the rule. I find that very, very, very common. Yeah, okay, so the chivalrous thing always blows my mind. I've talked about this one before. That is a really bad one, and I think that one comes down to two things. One, they're forgetting about the chronological order of the story, and two, they don't know what chivalry is. Like, very much so. So first off, Artoria would be more likely to be a bit more brutish in Fate Stay Night, because it happened after Fate Zero, and she's mad. She just got betrayed by her master of all things, and so now she's like really wanting to get this Grail thing done, and she's really pissed at, you know, she's not in a good mood after Fate Zero, right? So I buy that she's going to be more brutal, but here's the thing. The times that she is really chivalrous in Fate Zero are times that a knight would be chivalrous. I'm telling you, I don't think people know what the word chivalry means. I really think that. I think the people that brought that because I've seen people make that point. I've seen people make that point that it doesn't make sense that Artoria is so chivalrous in Fate Stay Night when she's like more brutish in Fate. She's more brutish in Fate Stay Night. So why is she chivalrous in Fate Zero? Again, the first point I made about the whole chronological thing, but it's because chivalry does not apply to everyone. And this sounds crazy, but this is absolutely how knights were. This ain't weird. This is absolutely how it is. Chivalry applies to the people that knights deem it worthy of, and that is generally other knights. They do not apply chivalry to man-at-arms and barbarians, any of that, and there is loads of documentation of this. Knights would be brutal and barbaric and cutthroat and practical and all these things against barbarians and bandits and man-at-arms and all these things, but then they would be chivalrous against their fellow knights. That is what chivalry was, and yes, is bullshit. I agree with Kugartsugu on this one. That's bullshit. That is what they did. That was very fucking common. It's not just common. A lot of stories and legends and stuff are built around that kind of mindset. And I think a lot of people just don't fucking realize that. They literally don't realize that. But yeah, Artoria is chivalrous to Dyrmid because she views him as a fellow knight and she respects him. And so he is worthy of chivalry. Also, so it's a bit of that, but then it's also just the fact that after being chivalrous in all of this, she got screwed over so much and now she's pissed, right? It's the sequel. Artoria's back and now she's mad and she's gonna get the Grail, right? You know, that's literally what Fate Stay Night is. Like, and then Nasu obviously wrote it first, but you can tell she's not happy about the Kurotsugu in Fate Stay Night, right? That is why she's being so brutal. But yeah, honestly, when people bring that up, I think it's a combination of them just being stupid and not really realizing the chronological order of events, and then also not realizing that chivalry does not apply to everyone. And Artoria, in both Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, like she is more brutish in Fate Stay Night, but she's still not like a full-on like villain, right? She even says she won't kill innocent people unless he uses a command spell on her, right? She's not gonna go cut down children or anything like that, right? She's not being that cutthroat, but she's, you know, not looking to go honor duel everyone she fights. But knights didn't do that to begin with. They really only did that against other people that they thought worthy of their chivalry. Ku certainly doesn't count as a knight to himself, and I highly doubt Artoria would consider him as such. There's a real difference between Dyrmid and Ku, very much so, and they very much make that distinction with Ku and Dyrmid. Like they are very different. And look how Ku and Dyrmid view Artoria, right? Dyrmid sees Artoria in a very good light. He really likes her. He like holds her up in, you know, high regard. Ku doesn't. Ku does not like Artoria at all. he very much dislikes her, and for the kind of character Ku is supposed to be, that's accurate. Like the fighters like Ku, especially Irish and all that, they don't like that kind of thing, generally speaking. But yeah, Ku very much dislikes Artoria, and he dislikes the way she behaves. He dislikes, you know, he says it in the Fate route, you know, he dislikes well-bred Night Kings, right? Doesn't like that shit. But Diarmid does, right? So there's like a real difference between them. You know, Ku's a wild beast, essentially, and he's famous for that, right? He's basically, on the battlefield, is a beast, right? That is his thing. So obviously, he doesn't care for that kind of thing. And interestingly enough, that is not even unique to Fate Stay Night. That is also in Fate Prototype. Proto-Ku does not like Arthur at all. They do not get along. It's the same thing, because Arthur is that kind of chivalrous thing, and which is kind of full of shit. Proto-Ku is, you know, more of, again, wild beast on the battlefield kind of thing, and yeah, they do not, if anything, I'd say Proto-Ku probably dislikes Arthur even more than Ku dislikes Artoria. It's hard to say because there's not a lot of screen time there, but yeah, that's like a reoccurring thing that they've done, and that's it's intentional. And I think Fate Zero intentionally, you know, shifted that up, showing, you know, they wanted Diarmid to be different from Ku in that regard, very much so. And they wanted to show, you know, how Artoria is different, you know, I think relative to that. And then also Artoria when she isn't as mad yet, right? Because she hasn't been portrayed by Kurotsugu yet, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's fine. I think Fate Zero to Fate Stay Night is pretty logical. There's a few issues. It's not perfect. I think one of the biggest mistakes is some of the things they kind of had set in stone with Kodamine, which retroactively really screws over 100 Face. Because he's, you know, Kodamine led Shiro on to believe, you know, that he was defeated really early. And, you know, his servant was technically defeated really early, and all that. But, you know, he hid the whole thing with Gilgamesh, right, in Fate Stay Night. And because of that, they had to kill 100 Face off really early. But then they gave 100 Face a toolkit that wasn't fucking believable, that 100 Face got killed off so early. And it's stupid, right? Like, 100 Face is a very powerful servant, and is one of the best servants imaginable at killing masters. And they fail at everything, and they just end up sucking all the time, and they never gank a master, and it's just that does not sync up very well, in my opinion, right? So if they wanted to stay true to what was set in stone by Kurotsugu and or by Kodamine in Fate Stay Night about his assassin servant being taken out easily and yeah, quickly, they should not have had him summon such a good assassin. Like, literally, they could just all scout around the city in, like, groups of 15 or 20, and then whenever they find a master, just throw 20 daggers at them from 20 different directions, master's dead. And you're gonna find all the masters really quickly because you have so many assassins roaming the city like that, right? And every one of those assassins are very skilled. Like Kojiro, they're not able, like they're not physically very powerful, right? They're not as strong as a typical servant, but they're still very skilled. They're all master class assassins, right? They're not kind of good assassins. No, they're all top tier assassins, right? They're all 100 of them, right? They just don't have the stats to back it up. So if they're all running around in groups of like 15 or 20 or whatever, they're gonna absolutely shred almost every master that's like ever existed. And yeah, but yeah, they don't do any of that. They always suck. Every time they do anything, their like daggers get stopped and they just die like it's nothing, and none of them ever show any masterclass assassin skill, and it's just stupid, right? Like that, and that's just because they had set in stone that the assassin had to get whacked really easy. But then they created a toolkit for an assassin that was bonkers, right? And like that's just dumb, right? That is a bit of writing in Fate Zero that is bad. And that was also very avoidable. And there's a few other things I think that are slightly out of sync with like a few, you know, moments here and there, but for the most part it's pretty good. Right now it's still my favorite Fate story. Now that might change. It really just depends on what happens with Fate Strange Fake. I love Fate Strange Fake, but it's not finished, and ending is so important. It's so important. Fate Strange Fake's last volume I wasn't super crazy about. So yeah, jury's still out on that one, but we'll see. Yeah, my guess is the child assassin for the 100 face does not always spawn. That would be my assumption. They actually were going to use it in Fate Zero, but they ended up not doing it. But then they'd use it in FGO. So I don't know. What Nasu might say is in Fate Stay Night's Fate Zero, right? The normal timeline. Because so Fate Zero is canon. It is canon, but it's also considered an alternate timeline to Fate Stay Night. However, almost everything that happens in it does actually